Hey guys, so today's lesson is we're going to start talking about programming in Python. Now I'm using sections 1.1, I think it's section 1.1, let's take a look. Yeah, sections 1.1 and 1.2 of the book right now. And I just copied this into our notes. Okay, so what's programming about? Now, programming is about, let me get my face out of the way, input. It gets data either from a user, that's the guy who's using the program, or from a file. Okay, so the user might use a keyboard, touchscreen. You could also get input from the network, and sometimes you get it from sensors on the computer. Okay, process. It computes with the data, like adding, multiplying, subtracting, any kind of thing. Calculations a thing might do, and it also does output, responding and outputting. Otherwise, it might not exist at all. Right? There was a famous uh, case where they used a computer program and they wanted to test how fast they can make it. And they had a very smart computer test, and they showed the computer program added up all the numbers from 1 to 10. And the really smart program replaced the entire program with an empty file because it never outputted anything. So they said they could do it, so they could do it infinitely fast with nothing. So every program needs output or it's totally pointless. Now you don't necessarily, you can do these not in this order. So sometimes you might do some calculations before you even get input. And you might do input and calculate and output and input again and calculate and output. So there might be a sequence of inputs. In fact, that's a very common way that computer programs work. So it's these guys are always happening, but not necessarily in that order. Now, so we get to a program. So what are the parts of a computer program? So this is what we got here. Parts of a program. All right, and let's make that boldface. Parts of a program. Okay, a statement is a program instruction that does a lot of these computations. Okay, but it could also be a choice statement that would have start with an if, or it could be an iteration statement that might start with a while. So it do something while something is true. Okay, expressions do the are calculations. So so you might have a star to indicate multiplication. So here we see wages. I'm sorry about that. Let's make that nice and big. Come on, silly thing. All right. Wages times hours times weeks. Okay, and that's a calculation. So wages, hours, and weeks hold numbers. We call them variables because they can hold different numbers and the numbers can change while the program is running. If it's a number that never changes, something that holds a number that never changes is called, wait a second, what are you doing there? Okay, is called a constant. Okay, so sometimes you have numbers that never change, like pi or minimum wage. It won't change while the program's running. So those are called constants. Now, we can create new variables just by assigning them a value. So here we're assigning salary, wages times hours times weeks. Okay, the print function displays the result of it. And we put this character called hash sometimes for comments, which is a way the programmer communicates with other programmers. It is not read by this symbol says, ignore this computer. It's there not to speak to you, not you, the computer, but to speak to other programmers. It's like leaving a little note on a refrigerator. Okay, and you'll see many code error editors do certain words. Now, I'll show you examples of a lot of this in the book. Isn't that great? We have the book. Let's make the book a little bigger. Good. So, here is a program. It's going to get the value for the x variable. Then it's going to get the value for the y variable. These are inputs. Then it'll do processing, and then it'll do output. So here, we've got an input. Now, we got another input. So like I said, it's not, okay? Now, we're going to do some processing. We're taking x plus y and putting it into z, the variable z. We create the variable z. Then, we are outputting z. So there is a thing. Stop that. Now, I'm going to jump out of this. Okay, so I'm going to add into our notes a sequence of instructions that solves a problem is called an algorithm. We'll put that little thing in our notes too. So here are some very useful words. Now, so I'm going to go down to 1.2 now and show you some more examples. Okay. 1.2, we get to Python. And that's something I've been wanting to do. Okay. Now, if we look down here, here is a color coded. So constant numbers are coded in green. The variables are dark blue. The important symbols like assignment, which is an equal sign, are red. Or what is that color? I don't know. Dark black or something. And so you see the time signs are that same color, whatever it is. And in dark red is the print statement. Now, you can see we're assigning values to variables. So there's no input in this part, but it's going to do the computation, and then it's going to print the salary. By the way, that smart program I told you about, if it saw a program without input, it would get rid of everything but just calculate what the print statement. It would just have a single print statement, right? Of course, all it needs to do is this calculation in advance. Anyway, let's see this in action. So here, we're going to do wage equals 20. Now the value of wage is 20, but nothing's going to appear in the thing. Now we're going to see the wage. Hours is 50, hours is 40, weeks is 50. So that's the first thing. We just put numbers in variables. Nothing actually is happening in terms of output. Now we'll do this computation. We'll take 20, 40, and 50 and multiply them all together. Put 40,000 into salary. Still nothing is output. Now, we'll print the salary. This is part of the output. So we'll off the screen. Here is the output part. Notice we can put both words and numbers together this way with a comma inside a print. We can't do it in general, but inside the print, we can. Now we're going to change the value of hours. So hours is going to be lower, 35. We recalculate the salary, and we get a smaller number in salary, and then we output it. So we have two output statements. One is the lower salary leads, and one is the higher salary. So that's how this works. So that is a very simple kind of. Now, ignore the bottom of 1.2 because that's way too complex and not nearly as informative enough as it should be. So I'm going to stop right here, and we'll we'll talk about other things later in another video.